I was going for Chinese drama heroine, but I think I ended up as a villain. Hi everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video. And today we are making another royal Chinese favourite, zǎohuāsū jujube flour pastries. Timestamps are down below in the description if you want to skip the initial blah blah, but stick around if you want to hear a little bit about the recipe we're making first. This is another recipe that dates back to the Qing dynasty, and it used to be made in the imperial kitchens for the royal family. Now of course we can enjoy them outside the palace, but just like then, they are just as gorgeous, tasty, delicate, and labour intensive to make. Today we're going to be making the jujube paste from scratch, so if like me you can't buy it in your local shops, then this is the recipe for you, because in most Asian supermarkets you will be able to find dried, hopefully seedless jujubes. They're sometimes called red dates or Chinese dates, though curiously they're not actually related to true dates, they're a completely different type of plant and fruit. And of course we're going to make the pastry from scratch, and it's just like my Teochew taro mooncakes. We're going to need an oil dough and a water dough. Both actually have oil/fat in them, the only difference is one also has water. And when you put them together and roll them up, they don't meld very well because one of them has water and it doesn't really mix well with oil. So it creates nice separated layers for an even flakier, delicate pastry. Now the Chinese name of these jujube flour pastries, zǎohuāsū, literally means jujube flour crisp. The name does what it says on the tin, and it's usually included in the 8 famous royal pastries of the royal Beijing kitchen. Which kind of means 8 pieces of Beijing roughly. And the Jingbajian, or Beijing Big 8, were basically 8 pastries, desserts, snacks that were made in the imperial kitchen, and they were all supposed to represent different things like longevity, health, happiness, wealth. The specific pastries themselves changed over time, but the zǎohuāsū is usually included in the 8. So with all that said, let's go to the not so royal kitchen and see how it's done. We're starting at the hob today, which is quite rare. Usually we start over there or by preheating the oven, because we need to rehydrate and boil some jujubes. Now, jujubes are sometimes called red dates. They're actually not related to dates like medjool dates. They're a completely different fruit, but yes, sometimes they're called red dates. Red dates, jujubes, look out for those at your Chinese supermarket. And we're going to use seedless ones, and we're going to need 300 grams. So that's 2 of these packets in total. We're going to top them up with just enough water to cover them. They're a bit floaty, but that's okay. Let's cover them with a lid, and we're basically going to simmer these for about half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour depending on how dry the ones you got, although these ones aren't too dry. You'll be able to tell if they're even smaller and more shriveled, but basically just boil them, simmer them until they are nice and soft. It's been about half an hour for me, and my jujubes are looking juicy. Right, all we're going to do now is turn the heat off. I'm going to take this off the heat, and I'm just going to let these cool down in the hot water very slowly, because the next thing we want to do is peel them, but they're a little bit hot right now. We don't want them to dry back up, so just let them cool down in the water slowly. Once our jujubes are cool enough to handle, we are simply going to peel them, and then we're going to put the flesh in a wok. Phew, that was a labour of love. What I did was, when the little skins got stuck on my hands, I just had a little dipping bowl of plain old water there to get them unstuck, and it helped me clean these as well. The skins are actually edible, but because we want a nice smooth paste, and the skins are a bit papery, we don't want them here. Right, now let's mush these up and cook them. Now essentially all we need to do is mush this down and cook it slowly until it forms a paste. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoonfuls of vegetable oil. Excuse me while I eyeball it, I don't want to clean a spoon. I can just about eyeball these things. And that vegetable oil needs to be flavourless, so something like corn oil or sunflower oil is fine. I'm going to turn the heat on to medium, and I'm just going to stir it and smash it up until it forms a paste. It already is, because these dates are nice and soggy now, as you can see. Oh, that is not a pleasant sound. And this is why I took so much time peeling them, because if you blend them, if you have a nice high-powered Vitamix blender, which I do not, I have a normal blender which is good, but not as good as a Vitamix or a Blendtec, then sure, you're getting rid of all of those skins and you're obliterating them so you don't have to skin them, but you probably will also have to add a little more water to help it blend. And adding more water means you're going to take more time on this step to cook it down. If you remember my yellow pea cake last weekend, think about that. So the more water you add, the more time it's going to take. Oh, excuse me, there's a mad motorist out there. The more time it's going to take to cook that water out and thicken it. So here we go, we're going to look for a dark, thick, almost dough-like consistency. Now see how we have a nice dark dough which is moving as one entity in the pan and it's folding over nicely. This is done, I'm going to turn the heat off and we're going to scrape this into a bowl to cool down. Now we need this to cool down completely because it will keep getting thicker as it cools, but we don't want it to dry out, so I'm just going to lay a little bit of cling film over the top so it doesn't form a crust. And I'll just let it cool down to room temperature. Once our date paste is cool, we're going to divide it into 8 equal-ish portions. We're just going to roll them into balls. Now these can be set aside while we make the pastry. First, let's make the oil dough, which is literally just flour and fat. So here I have 150 grams of plain flour. Then I'm going to add 80 grams of melted shortening. This is Trex in the UK. I think you can get Crisco in the US. It's just vegetable shortening. And I'm going to give this a stir together and then I'll transfer to my hands once it starts forming a dough, so I can knead it until it's smooth, but not knead it too much. Once it comes together into a soft dough, we're going to divide it into 8 pieces and roll them into balls. And I've just put my 8 oil dough balls on a plate. They're quite soft, they're almost like soft sand rather than an actual solid dough, but don't worry, it will come together. Let's set these aside. Now let's make the water dough, which is basically an oil dough but with water and a couple extra ingredients. Here I have 250 grams of plain flour. I'm going to add 30 grams of icing sugar, a little pinch of salt, 115 grams of melted shortening and 65 milliliters of water. And we're just going to give this a stir together too. And now we are also going to separate this into 8 dough balls. And now we need to make some pastry dumplings. Basically we need to get our oil dough inside our water dough. So I'm going to take a water dough, flatten it out a little bit. I'm going to pop an oil dough in the middle, and just like we're making a dumpling or a bun, we're going to enclose it in our water dough. Lovely, now we have to do all of these as well. Now, with all things gluten and dough and flour, these are now very tired. I've worked them quite hard and I want to roll them out and roll them up a few times to create some nice flaky layers, but because they're a bit tired, a bit tough, I'm actually going to cover them and let them have a little rest for 10 minutes, which is my cue to have a rest for 10 minutes too. Now that they've had a bit of a break, let's roll some of them out. So let's take one of our dough dumplings, we're going to roll it out into a sort of tongue shape, an oval. And we're going to roll it up like a cigar. Just like this, and I'm going to put that here. Also going to cover it too as I go along. And we're going to repeat this with all 8 of our dumplings. Nice, now I'm going to give them another little 10-minute rest. This is optional, but if you feel that your dough is becoming a bit tough, then give it a rest. Sometimes I don't have to, it just depends really. Today I'm going to give them a rest. Now we're going to roll them again, this time the other way. So let's take a cigar, put it lengthways, and we're going to roll it a bit this way. And we're going to roll it up again into a fatter cigar. Lovely and chunky. Now don't get excited because we still have a little bit of work to do, but this is indeed the time we preheat the oven, and it's going to be preheated to 180 degrees C. And now we're finally going to stuff these with our dates, so we're going to create even more dumpling type things. So let's take one of our fat cigars. What we're going to do is we're going to create a dip in the middle like that. And then bring those curly ends up to the middle, and by doing that we're kind of already making a circle. So let's flatten that down. And we're going to pop a ball of date paste in the middle, and you know the score. Turn this into a nice dumpling. Now we're just going to pat it down just a little. You can also roll it as well, but I prefer patting it. And once I've done turning it into a disc, now's the fun part. I'm going to cut some spokes, and they're going to be the petals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I don't want to cut, because we don't want to cut all the way in. There we go. I'm going to take some scissors, and I'm going to snip just like that. Oh, that was so much fun. So satisfying. Remember, not right into the centre. I'm going to do that 8 times. And now I'm just going to bring our baking sheet over. There we go. Because I want to show you how we're going to shape these. It's very cool. So we're going to place this down here, and we're going to twist our petals like this. Nice. So keep twisting, preferably all in the same direction. Just give them a little flatten down. And we're going to do this with all of them. Now look at these, they are gorgeous already, but we're not done yet. We have one last thing to do before we bake them, and that is paint on little red dots. So here I just have some red food dye that I've thinned with water and a clean cotton bud, and we are going to put one in the centre and then do 6 around it. And now we can finally bake them, and we're going to bake them for about 15 to 18 minutes until they're only just showing signs of turning brown rather. But we don't want them to go brown, we want them to be nice and pale and flaky, so see you then. There they are, gorgeous. Now all we need to do is let these cool down completely, and then we can enjoy them. Aren't these adorable? And they are huge, which is the perfect size for tea time. Let's snap one open. Here it is for scale, about half the size of my face, which is very generous for a pastry. I'm going to give you a little view of what it looks like on the bottom. Still kind of nice on the bottom as well. I think one day I'd love to invest in the stamp for this because you can get a variety of stamps for Chinese pastries, and one of them just has the dots all in one, so all you have to do is dip it in the red ink and then stamp it straight on, so you don't have to do individual dots. Anyway, where's the one that I opened earlier, because I want to keep this one nice. Here we are. Cheers. 100% worth the effort. The pastry is so rich and perfectly seasoned with that little bit of sugar and tiny bit of salt that we put in the water dough. So flaky it almost melts in the mouth. It starts off crisp but then just melts in the mouth. And the jujube paste is so fragrant. It almost has a brown sugar taste to it, but it's all natural. A tiny bit of tang because it is after all a fruit. And surprisingly not too sweet. So there you go, zǎohuāsū, Chinese jujube flour pastries. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe video, and I hope you will join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, follow me on Instagram, I'm tashcakes.tastes, and find me on TikTok too, I'm tashcakes there too, but my handle is food in slow motion. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I will see you all next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. While you're watching this, I'm currently, as we speak, in Beijing on holiday. I'll definitely be buying and eating a lot of tasty pastries like this while I'm out there.